Good morning, everyone. Today, we will discuss the most important topic of your syllabus, that is concept of open prisoner under prisoner reforms. I am Kalpna Bharti, Assistant Professor, IIMT College of Law. So, here we are starting our topic from the introduction of open prisoners. Open prisoners. It is an open prisoner or open jail is an any jail in which the prisoners are trusted to complete sentence with minimal supervision and perimeter security and are often not locked up in their prisoner cells. So open prisoners, unlike other normal prisoners, there are no walls, no lockups, no any security or parameter in this concept of open prisoners. So prisoners are open and they are allowed to go outside the prison premises. So prisoners may be permitted to take up employment while serving their sentence. The concept is based on the principle of self-discipline and trust begets trust, which, if managed properly, can reform the human resources. Means this concept is based on trust that prisoners will not escape the security of prisoner authorities, or they will not um, break the trust of prisoners authority, and they will return back to the prisoners after some times which in which they are allowed to go outside the prisons. So you can see the difference between normal prison and open prisoners. So there are lockups, and in open prisoners there are no lockups, and prisoners are allowed to go outside the prisons. So what are the characteristics of open prisoners? An open prisoner is a prison which is open in four respects. First, it is open to prisoners as they can go out for employment or other purposes during the day, but one must come back to by the evening. It means prisoners can go for any purpose, like for personal, for employment purpose. They can go to market, or they can go to meet their family members, but they have to come back by evening. So there are no guards in an open prisoners. Also there are no locks, bars, walls, which are you can see in normal prisons. So open prisons are open to public people, as people can visit the prison and meet the prisoners. This enables the prisoners to meet their relatives, friends, and the problems of their family can be solved by mutual discussion. So you all know that in normal prisoners are not allowed to meet outsiders. After some time or with some conditions they can meet, but other people cannot usually come and meet the prisoners. But in open prisoners, the prisoners are allowed, and outsider also allowed to meet the prisoners, and they can go to their family, friends, and solve any problems by mutual discussions. So open prisoners are allowed open in organization, as the working in which prisoners is based upon the prisoner self sense of self discipline, self confidence, and self responsibility. So this whole concept of open prisoners is itself based on the self discipline of prisoners. So they have to be uh, uh, restricted by their self confidence, self discipline, self rule, that they cannot or they will not break or breach any condition on which the open prisons is allowed to them. So these are the characteristic of open prisons. Advantages of open prisons. So what are the advantages? The open prisons play a vital role in the reformation of prisoners, which is now considered as one of the most important aims of prison system. So you all know that the purpose of punishment is to reform a prison. It is not to revenge or to do anything when there is no purpose or no reason of reformation. So the purpose of punishment should be the reformation and not punishment or to take revenge from the prisoners. So this open prison concept uh, fulfill that purpose of reformation of prisoners. So open prisoners aid in avoiding overcrowding in jails. So you all know that in during the COVID era, um, the disease create a problem in overcrowded jails. Uh, prisoners prisoners were not allowed to self isolate themselves because of the disease. So this open prison concept avoid those overcrowding situations in jails. So the cost of construction is quite less than the closed prisons. Obviously there is no uh, uh, charges or there is no uh, um, anything cost which is required for security of those closed business. So very less cost is required to open a close open a open prisoner. The introduction of wage system helps the government provide employment. So in this concept of open prisoner, there is introduction of wage system that prisoner can go outside and do any work, and uh, they can get the wages of their work and help their family from that wage. So next advantage of open prison is open prison allow the inmates to be visited by family, as we already have discussed it, by and thus help them realize their social responsibility. So the disadvantage of closed prisons is that prisoners are not allowed to involve in social activities, and they develop after some time some kind of social anxiety. So this open prison concept solve this problem, and this help them to realize their social responsibilities, or they can easily involve in social activities by going outside the jails. So since the inmates are engaged in productive works in forest, construction site, they remain mentally and physically fit. So the most one of the advantage of open prison is when they go outside the jails, they can do any productive work in forest or construction site or any kind of other works, and the result of this kind of work is that they remains mentally and physically fit. So next is what is the justification of open prison in the light of constitution provision? So the open prisons in India are generally for the offenders who are not a menace to society and are charged with petty offenses. As you already are thinking that are all those prisoners allowed allowed to go outside? No, only some kind of prisoners are allowed to go outside in this concept of open prisoners, and these offenders are generally uh, belong to those category of crimes which are petty in natures. So article 21 of the constitution, as we all know, that It provides that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. Article 21 provide life and personal liberty. So the main principle which it emphasizes personal liberty except the procedure established by law. So the Supreme Court in various cases has derived the required jurisprudence from Article 21 to protect the right of prisoners insofar as the human treatment of prisoners is concerned. So this concept of open prisoner fulfill that requirement of providing some personal liberty to prisoners, and it fulfill or it protect the article 21 and their life and personal liberty of prisoners. So the Supreme Court, commenting upon the importance of open prison in Ramamurthy versus State of Karnataka, observed that they play a vital role in the reformation of prisoners because of their features such as release of offender on probation, home leave to prisoners, introduction of wage system, release on parole, education, vocational or moral training. So, in this case, the Supreme Court emphasized the vital role in of this concept of open prison in reformation of prisoners. So, the Supreme Court held that this kind of concept help in you know in this we can introduce many things like vocational, educational, moral training, and introduction of wage system. We can include various things in such concept for the reformation of prisoners. So next, the eligibility criteria. This is the most important thing to understand, that not every prisoner is allowed uh, to go outside jails or to be eligible for open prisons. So we have to understand what are the criteria for open prisons. So different state have different prison menus which indicate eligibility criteria for transfer of convicts from closed prisoners to open prisoners. So there is we can see that there different state have different laws and rules. Not a single or common law is present for the to give some fixed criteria for open prisoners, open prisons. So as per the, we can discuss the different state rule in this slide. So as per the Rajasthan Open Prison Rule 1972, Sampurnanand Open Prison can have prisoners first who had a good conduct, second who had completed one third of their sentence, and whose name has been recommended by the committee established for said purpose. So we can see that there are few criteria like prisoners should be of good conduct, and who has he should have completed one third of their sentence, and the name should be recommended by a committee. So a committee is established for this particular purpose, that which prisoner should be allowed to for the open prison and which should be not be allowed. So uh, in other states like Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, there are different rules regarding this. So in Andhra Pradesh, the age limit for admission to open prison should be between 21 to 55 years. Convicts are eligible for transfer only after undergoing one third of their sentence in a closed prison and having normally more than 5 years to serve. So, in Andhra Pradesh, there is different criteria, different uh, age groups can be allowed for open prisons. Like convicts are eligible for transfer only after undergoing one third of their sentence. So this is the condition to be allow them to for open prisoner, and having and those having more than 5 years to serve. So he have to serve 5 years at least in closed prisoners, and after that he can claim or he can ask for open prison, or a jail authority or committee can recommend his name when he um, fulfill these criteria. So next we can discuss the Maharashtra rules. So open prisoner rule in Maharashtra are governed by Maharashtra Open Prisoner Rule 1971. The main criteria of selection include the period of imprisonment, the time already spent, physical and mental fitness, and good conduct of the convict. So the main criteria we can see, as all state have different criteria, but some of the criterias are common for all states. So Maharashtra also, there the common criteria are the spend years in the closed prisoner, and physical and mental fitness, and good conduct of the convict. So the in we can discuss the ineligibility criteria also, and it is provided under Maharashtra Open Prisoner Rules. So what are the ineligibility criteria? First, he have a history of mental illness. Second, they are convicted for narcotics. Third, are hardened, murdered. Fourth, have been convicted for sedition or collection of arms, are ineligible for transfer. So we can see that there are four criteria in which the prisoner is not allowed for open prisoner. So if he have mental illness, so it is not recommended a mental ill person go outside and create some nuisance in society. Second, the convicted for narcotics, as narcotics or hardened murder, as they are very serious kind of crimes or offense, so it is not recommended that they go outside and create some problem for the society. So the next we can see that sedition and collection of arms is heinous crime in itself. So it is also one of the ineligibility criteria. So there are advantages of this concept, but also there are some criticism regarding this concept of open prisons. So some of the ground on which the system is criticized are: first, the eligibility criteria is very subjective. As already discussed, different states have different set of rules for the eligibility of convicts for open prisoners. The criteria of eligibility is highly subjective and is generally based on the good behavior, nature of offense committed, length of the system, and also the risk of security. The convicts which are considered danger are also not generally transferred, and some states have arbitrarily excluded women as well. So this criticism is based on the biasness, or difference between states rules. So the criticism says that the criteria of eligibility is highly subjective. So there is no common law or no common rules, set of principles on which this criteria can be set or fixed according to some common laws. So it is generally based on so some principles are common, like good behavior, uh, nature of offense, or length of the sentence, but there must be some common or fixed criteria on which the prisoners can be allowed for open prisoners. So the second criticism is under trial prisoners are excluded from the benefit of open prisoners. So under trial prisoners, as we all know that India have huge numbers of under trial prisoners, and they are because of various reasons like non-fulfillment of bail bond conditions, and not getting right legal directions, or there are various reasons that India has huge number of under trial prisoners. So this open prison should be allowed to some extent to these under trial prisoners, so that they can go outside and earn for their family, and they can support their family as well. So this is one of the um, criticism of the system. The next is no union territory in India have even experimented the concept of open prisons, and the state have very few number of open prisons. So there in India also only some few states have this concept of open prisons. Like for example, in Rajasthan has the largest number of open prisoners. I think it is 29 around, and in Maharashtra, in Andhra Pradesh, and few other state only have this concept of open prisoners, and there is no union territory in India which has even experimented this concept of open prisoner. We should be, as in Delhi there is huge population, but there is no concept of open prisons. The other criticism include corruption have always been a menace to our country. So sometimes due to corruption, wealthy convicts which are even charged with heinous crime and are hardened criminals are transferred to open prisons. So this because of this corruption, this concept is misused by wealthy criminals. They can pay and get the open prisons by doing, and even if they are very hardened criminals and involved in heinous crimes, they can misuse this concept and get a free hand to do other crimes also. So this is one of the criticism of open prisons. The conclusion and suggestions include many things around this concept of open prisons. So, despite certain loopholes, the basic philosophy of open prisons has made them an answer to the problem of overcrowding in closed prisons. With free movement, employment, family visits, recreational facilities, open prison inculcate a sense of self-discipline and social responsibilities in the inmates. The condition of open prisons have made it feasible that open prisoners after the release do not relapse into crimes, and the wage labors make them economically independent. So we can see that there are many advantages of open prisons despite many loopholes. So they can go outside having free movements, and they can join any employment, family visits. They can do visits and solve their financial problems of their family. And so it inculcate a sense of self-discipline and social responsibilities, that they have to back to the prisons after some time or by evening. So it depends, or it inculcate a sense of, obviously, a sense of social responsibilities to these inmates. The condition of open prisons have made it feasible that prisoners after release do not relapse into crime. So it is based on psychology, that when they involved in social activities during their prisoners years, so they will not involve in other criminal activities after their period of imprisonment is over. So this is one of the advantage we can see. There are some suggestions from my side to develop more open prisons in countries. So these are some of the suggestions, like For example, first, a common set of rules to determine the eligibility criteria for transfer of convicts to open prisoners is required, allowing different states to frame separate rules has led to arbitrary exclusion of certain classes of prisoners. For example, certain states have made women ineligible for transfer to open prisoners. So there is no common set, as we have already discussed. Others, different states have different rules regarding the open prisoners. So there should be a common rules or set of principles on which these open prisoners can be allowed to prisoners, or like for example, some states have um, disallowed women's, especially for open prisoners. So for women, it can be possible that a set of common principles regarding women's, children's, this principle of open prison can be set. So judiciary should have the power to send certain class of offender directly to open prisons. As we have already discussed, only a committee can decide who should be transferred to open prisoners. So judiciary must have this power to send some kind of some class of offenders directly to open prisons, especially in case of petty offenses and young offenders, so that they remain separate from hardened criminals. Yes, and the vices that practiced in Indian jails. So judiciary must have that power. Judiciary can decide by doing trial and uh, by seeing, by uh, checking what are the criminals is having, is all about in society. So open prison should also be established in union territory. This is my last suggestion, and thank you so much. I hope you have understand this concept very well. Thank you so much. That's it.